guys and gals, me Mutahar, and boy oh boy do I like looking at dumpster fires, train wrecks, okay, crash landings. You know, it's one of those things where no human being can actually look away from. But Elon Musk is one of those interesting characters where, like, years ago I used to like kind of look at him and be like, oh, he's kind of like the Iron Man dude, you know, he just builds weird stuff like flamethrowers and like tunnels with Teslas in them and makes cars fully self-drivable. Cool guy, all right? Seems like he knows what he's talking about. And of course, the more and more you look into like what Elon Musk has been doing ever since he bought Twitter, you kind of realize that, whoa, time to whittle it on back. The guy has some weird sussy takes. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk's history of vaporware is not exactly unknown. There's an amazing YouTuber by the name of Thunderfoot that, pretty much debunks a lot of these BS claims that not just Elon Musk, but a bunch of other billionaires and, like, futurists will really go on to it. He's kind of like the James Randi, all right, of, like, people, creating some bullshit futurist technology, right? Whether it be Theranos or Tesla or SpaceX or whatever, the man is there, okay? He's committed to the bit. Now, I could sit here and spend an hour and a half, 2 hours, basically looking up the history of Elon Musk's weird failures, but that's a separate video for a separate time that I want to work on, but this is not what it's about. You know, we can look at a lot of Elon Musk's projects, like The Boring Company, where the dude wants to build tunnels, which some of them appear to be scrapped, most notably in the state of California and the state of DC. You know, projects where basically Elon Musk drills these tunnels where eventually Teslas drive through them. Autopilot, apparently. And you might be wondering, as an engineer, right? Like, you don't even have to be an engineer. You can just play 5 seconds of Factorio and realize trains are just better for this purpose. Far more optimal. Hey, Elon, you want to get 500 people to the center of the city without a traffic jam? It's called a train, all right? You run some trains. But I guess for a man that runs one of the most overvalued automobile companies, I'm pretty sure it's great for him to just keep pushing the ideas of cars over public transit, okay? Look, I like cars too, but if we're talking about optimal transit, trains, buses. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just The Boring Company. Obviously, if you're a Tesla driver, you've probably heard of something known as the full self-driving package, which I'm just gonna play something from 3 years ago on Tesla Autonomy Day, where Elon talks about making $30,000 off of a feature known as robo-taxi.
You say, what would be the probable gross profit from a single robo-taxi? We think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year. And we expect that we're literally designing, we're designing the cars the same way that commercial semi-trucks are designed. Commercial semi-trucks are all designed for a million-mile life, and we're designing the cars for a million-mile life as well.
Now you might be like, whoa, Muda, what's he talking about with $30,000 a year? Now, if you don't know, Tesla cars come with full self-driving. I don't even think you can legally call it full self-driving. It's basically really, really fancy cruise control. And basically, if you bought it back in the day for $10,000 or up to like 20,000 Canadian, which is what it's running at right now, last I checked, then your car has the ability to drive itself technically on the roads. Now, you still need to be there, okay? In fact, Tesla's gotten a lot of heat lately, okay? Given the fact that they had to, like, be forced to update their software because of apparent bugs in the actual thing. Yes, who would have thought that beta software that's driving on public roads has some bugs in it? I know, shocking indeed. Cars breaking out of nowhere, a lot of things can go wrong. And of course, you might be wondering, well, Muda, robo-taxis 3 years ago, why haven't they shown up now? Well, it's because if you're following Elon and riding him really hard, you forget to realize that for this to get past a regulator, it needs to be 100% feature-proof, okay? It needs to be 100% like bug-proof. Sorry, that's the better term. Because if you're trusting a multi-ton vehicle on the road, they need to make sure that it doesn't impact other cars, kill people, for instance, basic safety stuff. Now, of course, when it comes to a lot of this fully self-driving technology or autopilot technology too, I don't think it'll ever actually be perfect. I don't think we'll ever reach a point where you can truly fall asleep in a car and get from point A to point B, because I think there's a lot of variables that can go wrong when vehicles are moving at such a fast speed, right? I'm not saying that I'm against the technology. It would be really cool, but you'd have to find some way for this technology to be completely 100% foolproof, and you need to find a way for it to communicate with other cars that are also fully self-driving. Some weird open framework of communication so cars can at least try to correct themselves or communicate with each other when they're traveling at such high speeds. So of course his robotaxi shit didn't go anywhere because of course regulators aren't just going to accept this technology when it hasn't completely proven itself. Elon has probably tried to push this off so hard onto people, overpricing it, fitting it with technology that could probably be better implemented. But of course, it's not complete, it's not there, it's cool tech, don't get me wrong, but right now if you're a full self-driving user, it's like babysitting a first-time driver, okay? It's just not what you want to do. Highways, that stuff works. Main roads, good luck. Get somewhere alive and just drive on your own. But of course, these are just some of the promises that Elon has done in his company. And of course, like I said, if you wanted to look at like all of his processes and all of his like projects, it would probably take an hour to two to like look at some of these like technologies and really debunk them. But of course, to get into it, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about what's happened recently. Now, of course, where things get truly spicy in this situation is Elon has gotten into a spat with somebody in the company, or I guess used to be in the company, known as Haraldur Thorleifsson. Okay, so basically this is somebody that sold a company to Twitter for some crazy sum. I think it was like a couple $1 million. I've seen people throw 100 million around, but I think he actually accepted a low payout. This guy is the kind of dude that once he got paid out by Twitter, no joke, instead of paying capital gains tax, which he would have paid very little on, he decided to take the money as salary so you could be taxed at a higher rate to support the people in the country because of the benefits that they provide. And of course, he's won like Person of the Year and so on in their own countries. This is overall appears to be a pretty good dude. And they know what they're talking about when it comes to, again, computer software engineering. So of course, Elon gets into a spat with this guy. He says, "Hey, dear Elon Musk, 9 days ago, the access to my work computer was cut with about 200 other employees. However, your head of HR is not able to confirm if I'm an employee or not. You've not answered my emails." So of course, Elon's like, "What work have you been doing?" To which Haraldur's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gonna have to break confidentiality if I'm gonna answer that. Can your lawyers give me that in writing?" Elon's like, "Sure, go ahead." Now, of course, then he proceeds to tell him what he did, which is he led the effort to save $500,000 on one software as a service contract. And of course, he led prioritization of design projects. Now, of course, also led design crits, hiring manager, so on and so forth. And Elon's like, "Wait a minute, picture it didn't happen." Yeah, he's really going to post company internal documents publicly, right? Like that makes sense, buddy. Of course, he gets into this public shaming session, which is super duper wild. And of course, it just comes across as incredibly unprofessional. So of course, what's wild here is then he gets into the reality is that this guy, who is independently wealthy, did no actual work, claimed as his excuse that he had a disability that prevented him from typing, yet was simultaneously tweeting up a storm. Can't say I have a lot of respect for that. You know, I don't know if this guy's being intentionally obtuse in this situation, but do you understand, Elon, that a lot of modern day smartphones and computer devices come with dictation technologies that allow you to write paragraphs, tweets, emails without ever touching a keyboard? You know, a lot of people that are physically disabled kind of use these technologies, and there's a pretty big fucking difference between doing that and writing very specific code that you need to be using a keyboard for. Because yes, you are dealing with case-sensitive materials, you are dealing with symbols, you are dealing with a lot of granular stuff that you cannot dictate. There's a pretty big difference between writing paragraphs and then writing lines of code. But see, Elon Musk pretty much benefits off of like the intellectual void that exists within his fan base, because they don't even understand concepts as simple as that, all right? That people can actually, you know, use computers, all right, write paragraphs, and it's a pretty big difference between writing code versus writing actual, like, you know, written literature or written word. But of course, what's interesting is then he gets into the idea that he's talking about as like, you know, actual disabilities. So of course, he mentions the fingers, which was rather interesting in this situation, which Elon criticized him for. And it was like, yes, I can write for an hour or two at a time. And that wasn't a problem before Elon showed up, because he was pretty much a senior director and his job was basically leading by guidance and basically he was mostly a strategic and tactical guidance dude than just a standard like code jockey. Of course, it's understandable, all right? And of course, Elon jumps into it and pretty much at some point, now deleted, mentions him being the worst, okay? Sorry, he's the worst, which, Jesus Christ, dude. Talk about having like a public meltdown when you could have just called the dude up on the phone. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video too is I really don't like it when Elon talks out of his ass on something that he really doesn't have any idea about and people are just stroking him off. Now, one of the things that really wilded me out about Elon Musk is the guy pretends to know what he's talking about when in reality he has no actual clue on what's going on with the company. This is a dude that spent $44 billion on something he has no idea how to work with. So, to explain something, a couple days ago there was a problem with Twitter's API. It caused a lot of, I believe, external facing links to just shit the bed. And of course, what happened was, one engineer who worked on it, apparently they only had like one site reliability engineer working on a site as large as Twitter of all things, where effectively they had made a bad configuration change and broke the Twitter API. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, for a site as big as Twitter, you expect that they should have multiple employees working on something like this. Not one person, of all things, Jesus Christ! But of course, Elon comes in and talks about, uh-oh, there was an API issue, Jesus Christ! The code stack is extremely brittle for no good reason. We'll ultimately need a complete rewrite. Now, Elon is the kind of middle management dude that I swear to God would pop into an office or something with the actual programmers and be like, yo, bro, is everything going good? And just to shut up middle management, you'd be like, yeah, dude, it's compiling. Yeah, oh, the code's rendering, bro. Don't worry about it, dude. It's all going fine, man. We're just defragging the code base. And he's like, oh, yeah, bro, that's cool. Defrag the code base. All right, come back in an hour, dude. He's that kind of guy, okay? He walks in, pretends to know what they're talking about, and very easily fooled. So, of course, when he mentions the code stack is extremely brittle, a bunch of people jerk this off like, oh yeah, maybe things do need a full rewrite. So I'm going to just ask the question, what is a code stack? What is a tech stack in this case? Now, Elon uses a lot of these like fancy terminologies, they're not really that fancy, in order to sound smarter. And that's where I want to ask. You know, if I'm going to give you a quick example of what is a stack real quick, imagine you're working on like a public web service, right? One of your stacks would be Linux, Apache, SQL, PHP, so to speak, right? So you would use these tools because it's a lot easier than writing your own operating system, its own kernel, your own web server tool, so on and so forth. In fact, even your own programming language. So of course, imagine if you're building a web service, you're going to use what's already there. That basically is your code or tech stack, so to speak. Now, of course, if you're doing something specialized, you'll probably start writing something on your own, and that becomes your stack. For something as large as Twitter, obviously it's going to have a stack of its own, and it's just going to build upon it. What's also interesting about this situation too is it's kind of like game development. Like I know people who used to complain about like, oh, COD runs on the same engine every year. And I used to be like that too until I realized software development is very difficult. And even though the bones of code bases exist in any modern tool, any modern game, any modern project, it's existing there because ultimately it serves as a base for a project. Something as large as Twitter doesn't exist out of nowhere. It's built upon something that has taken several years to manifest. Now, one of the things that I can sympathize with Elon out about this is obviously there is a severe amount of technical debt that goes into something like Twitter. Now, technical debt isn't all bad necessarily, but the idea is the more you work on a project, and let's be realistic here, not everyone follows perfect programming guidelines, okay? Not everyone's optimizing their code, not everyone's doing the best that they can. Sometimes to meet your deadlines, to meet crunch, sometimes you just do what you got to do. You slap a band-aid on and call it a day. The more and more you keep doing that, the more and more brittle your code tends to become. Now, Twitter hasn't appeared to look like that. It's actually quite impressive to see a service as large as Twitter take so many requests and deal with them. So, of course, when Elon talks about an API issue, what baffles me is they are working on actual changes to the site. And instead of testing it in a test environment, it seems like they push this out to the public live environment, especially on times where there's actual like high amounts of users. Not even like maybe the least usage of their services when they're pushing this stuff out so they can quickly catch errors and like fix them up. No, they just push it out to live. And there we go. Issues prop up. Surprisingly, I know, nobody questioned it. And then suddenly we're getting into this idea that the code base is brittle. Anybody that tells you to rewrite an entire stack of code, to rewrite the entire tool, doesn't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Because if you look at like the history of all this stuff too, there is a great example in terms of something known as Netscape. Now, Netscape, for those of you who don't know, during the browser wars was one of the largest web browsers at the time, one of them. And when it came to like, I think Netscape 6.0, they wanted to do like an amount, they wanted to just rewrite the whole thing. And one of the excerpts I'm going to read from this massive write out is, it's important to remember that when you start from scratch, there is absolutely no reason to believe that you are going to do a better job than you did the first time. First of all, you probably don't even have the same team that worked on version 1. So you don't actually have more experience. You're just going to make more of the same old mistakes again. And it's true. When you fire so many engineers out of Twitter, and you got to realize when you're firing an engineer, you're not just firing somebody that's writing code. Any monkey could write code. But good code is written by people that have institutional knowledge. It's not as simple as going to Tesla and bringing AI engineers that write self-driving car software suddenly working on a web service. That's just not how it works. Some people are experts at different fields of programming, and I think Elon not understanding that is the biggest sign of a middle management jockey that I've ever seen.
We'll just need to do a total rewrite of the whole thing.
Wait, seriously, a total rewrite. That's your prediction for velocity.
Yeah.
Well, when you say a total rewrite, do you mean starting with the skeleton, or a bunch of engineers sit down with a whiteboard and say, what is Twitter? Revolution or reform?
I just mean literally there's you could either try to amend the crazy stack that exists, or rewrite it.
But when you say crazy stack, what do you mean? Break it down.
Yeah.
What? No, man. You're in charge of the servers and the programming, whatever. What is the stack? Elon?
Keep things
Come on,
technical
man.
in my space, please.
Take me from top to bottom. What does the stack look like right now? What's so crazy about it? What's so abnormal about this stack versus every other large-scale system on the planet, buddy? Come on, give it to me.
All right. So first off,
amazing. Wow, you're a jackass.
Okay. All
right, no. I got no credibility here, buddy. I got no idea what I'm talking about.
No, we could sit here all day and talk about this BS, but honestly, I kind of want to top it off. I wanted to have my little talk. I wanted to really just have a TED talk basically about programming in general. Just very, very basic corrections to just very, very public stupidity. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you disagree, I just want to ask you, let's have a healthy conversation in the comment sections below. But Elon is one of those guys that gives me trust fund apartheid, emerald mine, daddy rich, gave me a lot of money, let me buy some companies. Maybe people will stop making fun of me. Maybe they'll take me seriously as some pseudoscience engineer kind of energy. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it off right there. I think the guy is an idiot, and I think publicly shaming your employees is really, really stupid, unprofessional behavior, first off. And if you're out there defending anything that he said, I just want to ask why. Realistically, that's all, okay? That's really what I want to get down into. The more and more programmers that look at this guy, the more and more lack of faith in humanity they have in people, when they especially follow idiots like this and not actual scientists who know what they're talking about in regards to this situation. Anyways, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.